so today I'm gonna talk about two things. I've been meaning to make a video about when I actually got into the accident, but I always forgot about it, and so I just thought might as well make two videos in one. It's gonna be a long one, that doesn't matter, whatever. So about 2 weeks ago, or a week ago, I can't remember actually, I got into a motorcycle accident. I didn't hit anybody. I was driving on the southeast side of Gainesville, and I was on the highway. I wasn't on a highway, I was on a state highway, and I saw a left turn, and I wanted to take it, but I didn't really stop in time, so I kind of drove a little too fast. So when I turned, I think I was around 35 miles per hour, and when I made that left turn, it was a little too fast, and there was also sand on the pavement, so unfortunately, or the graphite, so unfortunately my back tire slipped out and my bike fell on the left side. But when I fell on the left side, my instinct was obviously trying to make the bike go upright, and I did it. But when I did that, I shot the momentum of the bike back up, and that momentum pushed me out of the bike and made me flew in the air for like a second, and I landed with my hand first, my right hand first, on the ground, and that's why this hand is a little stiff right now. It hurts when I when I rotate it. It doesn't hurt as much anymore, but it still hurts a little bit, and I've been wearing a cast for like a week now, but I don't really like it, so I'm not wearing it anymore. It's weird because I know it hurts, yet I still want to do this motion. I don't know why. Anyways, so just to wrap it up, I gotta remind myself that to be careful when I turn. I turned way too fast. I even knew it too. When I was turning, I knew that, oh my god, I'm gonna wipe out, and I did. So I kind of was prepared for it to happen, but it sucked that it still happened, and it honestly didn't feel like a real motorcycle crash. It almost felt like I fell off a skateboard. So I was very, very lucky that nothing really serious come out of it. The bike was totally fine too. The only thing that was damaged was like a little cosmetic damage on the crash bar and the seat, and that's really nothing. And so I was very, very lucky that nothing else happened. So a couple points I gotta remind myself now when I ride is, be careful when I'm turning. Obviously, slow it down to around 20. So that's point number one. Point number two, make sure to be careful of the condition of the road, because there was sand on the road, and that definitely helped a lot in why I crashed. And the third, which led me to the third one, is don't be as cocky. Since I got new wheels, I thought, the traction on these wheels are going to be pretty good, so it's going to be pretty forgiving if I try to make a steep turn. That's not the case at all. So that's 3 points. 4 is always wear safety equipment. So thankfully I was wearing full gear, helmet, jacket, gloves, pants, and everything, shoes. So I didn't have any road rash. So I was very lucky, and the bike was also the only damage that was done to the bike is I lost the left rearview mirror, and that's it. So I'm pretty lucky that was the only damage, and I also landed right next to the ditch too. So if it actually fell into the ditch, man, I wouldn't have been able to really get it out either. And the last point I wanted to make is make sure that when you do get into an accident, you make sure you stay seated, or not laid down, but I think that's fine too, but just sit at the site for 5 to 10 minutes at least, which is what I did, thankfully, because I knew I was in shock, so I didn't feel any pain, and the bike was like 400 pounds, and I picked it up like it was nothing, like it was a feather. So I knew at that moment I was in shock. So I stayed by the roadside I just sat there for a couple minutes, because I knew whatever part of my body that's been hurt, I'm not going to be able to feel it because I'm just so high on adrenaline. So I waited, and I'm really glad I did, because then I started to see the damage on my body, which was luckily only the wrist. But if it was anything else and I just kept driving, I might find out later, and that would hinder my ability to drive or something. So always make sure you sit next to the crash site for a couple minutes to let the shock go away, and then reassess the situation. So I was happy I did that, but very unlucky that this happened. But also very lucky because now I know, even though I knew before. Yeah, it's funny because when I first got the bike, there's this guy that told me it's not about whether or not you will put your bike down, it's about when. And he's definitely right. My 3 years of riding, this was the first time I ever had to put it down, and I learned a decent bit from it. So that's the accident part. Now let's go to the anti-Asian American racism. How do I feel about that? Well, it's weird. How do I go about this? Obviously, it's horrible. It is absolutely horrible. You know, it makes me worry a little bit. I knew when COVID started spreading, I always had a kind of worry in the back of my mind about possible repercussion against Chinese or Asian Americans in general. I always had that worry. Not a lot, you know, it's not like I wasn't able to sleep on at all, but I definitely was worrying a little bit about it. And, you know, so I'm not surprised, as bad as that sounds, that there is an increase in hate crimes toward Asian Americans. So I'm not surprised, but it has proven my worry to be right, which worries me even more. I don't worry about me, really. I'm a pretty, fit guy, relatively fit guy, to the point where I don't think anybody's really gonna randomly attack me. And plus, I live here in Florida. I don't think that, and these hate crimes really happen in small cities like Gainesville. I think, looking at the reports, most of it is happening in big cities. Which lead me to the second thing I want to say is, as horrible as this event is, I think the media is way overplaying this, way too much. So before I continue, let me just reiterate, I think this is actually horrible, and I do acknowledge that this is happening. But the degree of how much it's happening is very skewed to me, especially the way that media has been playing it. So, a couple of the mainstream medias all have titles of a surge in anti-Asian American, or a spike, or tremendous increase. It's like they use these words that make it sound like there has been like thousands of cases of it. But I looked a little deeper into it, and I was looking at a report done by NBC News. Let me pull it up. So here, you know, what they said was the increase in hate crime has been around 150%, which, you know, sounds like a shitload. You know, it sounds really, really a lot. But then you look at the actual numbers, there has been like 3 hate crimes in New York in 2019 against Asian Americans. And then in 2020, there's 28 hate crimes. So yes, it is an increase. And if you're going to do it by percentage, of course it is, because their base number is already so low. So for example, if I had 1 case of hate crime here in Gainesville in 2019, and then I had 2 hate crimes, then that's a 200% increase right there. You know, that's the math. And the statistic can be very skewed, which is what they use. And I hate the fact that they use it like this, because they are basically almost fear-mongering us. And it works. My mom has been calling me 24/7, telling me not to go outside, be careful and stuff like that, and how like dangerous it is. And I understand her concern, and I completely get her, and I honestly feel a little bit of concern myself too. But you have to look at the data, and you have to be like, realize that it's not happening to the point where we have to be worried everywhere, or we have to be careful about everybody. Like, it's not to that degree yet. And let me reinforce the idea that I do think there is an increase for sure. I mean, you can't argue against that. There's definitely an increase. But like, I don't think it's that degree where the media has been portraying it, where we have to send patrols around and gang up and like be careful. Now, maybe they should do that in big cities, in cities where it's big enough to have Chinatown, you know, like Chicago, New York, San Francisco, stuff like places like that. But like places like here, Gainesville, Tampa, I don't really think there is a surge in anything. And another thing about the media is, when you're portraying this stuff all the time, and when you're gaining a national recognition of it, it's good, but it's also got a bad side, which is certain people might not even thought about it until you started broadcasting it. So what I'm saying is, certain, you know, racists or anti-Asian people, they might not even have thought about these things, or hate crimes or things like that, until they started hearing about it, and then they're like, oh, maybe we should do that. You know, so it's like the media is giving them attention, basically, and the attention is good and bad, because first of all, it's good that it's getting recognition that this is happening, obviously, but the degree, like I said before, of how bad this really is very, very wrong to me, and very deceptive. You know, it fits a narrative that they want to tell, where they get more views, which is honestly what they want to do anyways, but it's not what I think is the right thing to do. I feel like the media should cover it, but they should not make it sound like it's a widespread issue. I think it's more of a regional issue at certain cities, certain big cities. And obviously, I hate the fact that this is happening, but I understand why it's happening. kind of foresaw it almost, and so I understand why this is happening. But just because I understand doesn't mean I accept it or tolerate it, obviously, because I think it is horrible, especially the attacks on old people, these defenseless people. Like, it's just so, I don't know, it's so disgusting to see that kind of action. And when it's about your own race, that's when it really made you think, These are the things I never had to worry about before. And now that I heard about it, things that are happening around, I'm not gonna lie, it's gotten to me a little bit. But it's at times like this that I think it's more important for people to step back and use logic and think about things without getting emotional. Because when you get emotional, that's when bad decisions are made. That's when hate kind of develop. And that's not a way to solve any problems, which is what these politicians are doing. Like Joe Biden literally went on like national TV, was like condemning attacks. Every freaking governor and mayor in the country is condemning the attack. I'm just like, dude, that's so pointless. You guys are just not doing anything. This is exaggerating the problem even more. Like, to me, it's very sad that this is taking a different path. It's like glorifying almost a little bit, making us seem like a defenseless victim, even though I believe that I think we are a race that has been shadowed a lot in the history and politics, but I don't think we necessarily, well, actually I shouldn't say that. For example, recently there has been a shooting in Atlanta of 3 spas with 8 people dead, and 6 of them were Asian women, I believe. And obviously this is extremely horrible thing that happened. It's very sad. But because the majority were Asian women, they're labeling it as a hate crime. I can see how it is, could potentially be one. But my stance on it is, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I'm leaning on the side that it's not, almost. And here's why. First of all, this guy has a history of sex addiction. And apparently these spas have been providing him with sex, these Asian spas, which is not unheard of. I mean, everybody kind of knows secretively, like, spas, some Asian spas have been notoriously infamous for doing these things, providing prostitution and sex. So it's not a far-fetched idea to me that this guy killed them because of his sex addiction. So it's not a far-fetched idea to me, because I could see it. And to say that he killed them because of they're Asians is just, I don't know. I'm not too sure about that. So I don't know. It's a complicated issue for sure, but I don't think there's enough evidence to say that this is for sure a hate crime completely. So it's complicated for sure. To basically wrap it all up, I am a little worried, because I'm worried that this increasing trend will spike even more. Oh wait, I just used the same word. Let me rephrase that. I'm worried that it will keep rising, basically. It will rise even more because of the whole media coverage and everything like that. And I worry that we will become a new target, a new, basically, scapegoat for everything that's gonna go wrong with the quarantine, because quarantine's not ending anytime soon. So I worry about that a little bit, and the fact that I worry a little bit about it is worrying, because I never had to worry about things like this. And honestly, it kind of made me understand Black Lives Matter a little bit more. When it's your own race, it makes you think a little bit more, for sure. But, obviously right now I'm gonna focus on the people that loves me and the people that I love too, and focus on these things and not worry about the hatred and spread of hate crimes, because I don't think it's gonna affect me as of right now or near future. I don't think it will. I have dealt with racism a lot before, and my kind of go-to strategy has always been to ignore them. And that's the strategy I've been using to ignore politics too recently. And I don't know if that's the right strategy anymore. It just seems like no matter where I go or what I do, it always finds a way back. And you can't run forever, but what else can you do? I don't know. I guess it's just one step at a time, and I guess I'll figure it out as I grow. And maybe my opinion on these things will change. I don't know. Well, that's the whole point of me making this video, so we can talk. So I can look back at it and see if anything really changed. So yeah, that's it for today.